Welcome back. Today I am going to explain the first 5 episodes of Sword Art Online 2012. Be ready for some spoilers are ahead. The story begins when the announcement is made that it's 2022 and mankind would feel their presence in the virtual world. MMO stream is about to kick off and the gamers watch the promotional video. They are all waiting for the virtual execution of the Sword Art Online. Initially, there was no nerve gear, but later it is invented by Akiko Kayava. Its 10,000 copies are sold and beta testers are convinced. A gamer, Kirito, puts on nerve gear and logs himself in the virtual world of Sword Art Online. Next, Kirito gets to a town of beginnings. While running, he is chased by a guy named Klein who begs Kirito to teach him. Kirito has gone through a beta test. Moving to the west field, Klein is bumped by a heavy bull. Kirito tells him to keep his initial motion first, then to attack to improve his sword skills. Klein obeys and smashes 2 bulls. Klein feels famished and wants to go back to eat something. He fails to log out and asks Kirito to help. Kirito fails to find the logout option. Kirito tells Klein that nerve gear overcomes the signals of the brain, so we cannot do anything. But we can get back if someone comes from the real world. Klein jumps toward him and asks to call her sister for help. Kirito abruptly replies that she is not into gaming and cannot come. Suddenly they are flashed into a new place with many. A mammoth monster appears named Akiko Kayava. Akiko tells me I am the controller of this virtual world. He adds that the logout option is missing and you have to perform different levels. Calling for help means the nerve gear emits signals and you will be dead. Currently, you are on the floor 1 Aincrad and 213 are short as they called for help. Akiko further says the only way you return is by conquering 100 floors, each consisting of floor boss. Everyone gets scared. Akiko also changes the face formation of everyone through the mirror item on their storage. Thus, this is the launching of Sword Art Online. Afterward, Kirito explains to Klein that he has a plan to survive. Klein responds that he has many friends behind, thus he cannot accompany him. Kirito runs through the village to live. Episode 1 concludes. Episode 2 starts when Kirito shares how 2,000 people have died during the first month without finding the boss. A man named Diable gathers everyone and wants everyone to consider him a knight for defeating the boss. He orders to make a team of 6 gamers. Kirito finds no one to team up with but a girl. The girl agrees. Later, a person, Kibeu, appears and shares it is because of the ex-beta testers that the beginners are falling apart. They take the easiest of hunting spots and secure their positions. They should apologize to us. Suddenly, another contestant, Agile, appears and contradicts Kibeu. Agile shows everyone a guidebook that all the contests had and they could get through the hunting spot. There is no way to blame the ex-beta testers. Next, Diable shows everyone the latest guide that has information about the floor boss, who is Ulfang the Cobbled Lord. He adds the team who defeats the boss gets an EXP and those who receive the item will keep it. Everyone heads to enjoy the party then. During a party, Kirito joins his teammate. She shares with Kirito that she wants to do everything on her own to meet the challenges. She does not want to lose. The teams are heading to the first floor boss through the forest field. Kirito shares his plan with his teammate. She tells him that she is a newbie. Kirito could not believe it. Finally, they reach to floor boss, Ulfang the Cobbled Lord, who has his ruined cobbled sentinels. Diable orders to attack and the fight begins. Kirito and his teammate kill the sentinels in style. Kirito is amazed to see the skills of his teammate, Asuna. The boss takes out the sword, which is not Talwar, but no Dechai, and smashes Diable. Diable, being a beta tester, shares his last words with Kirito to kill the boss. Diable has died and both Kirito and Asuna go for the counterattack. Kirito, all of a sudden, gets beaten by the boss and sees Asuna fighting alone. Asuna then joins Kirito while Agile and his teammates hold the situation. Agile advises Kirito to stay until you get better. Soon after, Agile and the rest of the teammates get hammered by the boss. Finally, Kirito gets up and starts attacking madly with Asuna. Thus, they manage to kill the boss. Afterward, Kirito receives an appreciation, but he is disappointed as he believes the team could save Diable's life. The contestants blame him that it is because beta testers are not revealing what they are. Kirito shares that 1,000 beta testers could not level up. I was the one who went through different floors and received much information. Therefore, I have a better level than all of you. Everyone's shocked and calls him a beater. Kirito loves this title. Next, Asuna is assured by Kirito that he finds her name through the HP gauge. Asuna is surprised. Kirito advises Asuna to build a guild then fight alone. Asuna expects the same from Kirito, and episode 2 ends here. Episode 3 commences when a Black Cats guild is celebrating on floor 11 Taft. They thank Kirito for saving their lives. Tetsuo, one of the contestants of Black Cats, asks Kirito about his level. He is surprised to know he is at the 20 levels. He further asks Kirito to join their guild. Kirito thinks hard and accepts the offer. Sachai, standing next to Tetsuo, will stay as a vanguard. Later, they fight with the dragon on floor 20 Sunlit Forest. Sachai struggles. Kirito takes her place, blocks the dragon, and Tetsuo does the rest. Tetsuo gets the level up. After that, Kirito is amazed about the assault team that they have made to floor 28 and tells Tetsuo they have access to more information through EXP. The Black Cats decide that they must consume their rewards on Sachai equipment. Sachai gets nervous as she does not feel like taking responsibility. All the team members take her into confidence, including Kirito. Kirito then finds Klein after so long on floor 28 Wolf Plains when he is having a mission. He completes that and comes to know that Kirito has joined a guild. Suddenly, Kirito receives a message from Keita that Sachai is missing. Kirito accesses the location and reaches out to her. Sachai feels quite down and asks Kirito when we are going to leave this place. Kirito responds, "We will leave for the real world one day." Sachai then decides to take a nap alongside Kirito. While lying, Kirito thinks people are having mixed emotions and all of us would compete together. Meanwhile, Keita decides to head toward the town of beginnings. Everyone discusses while Keita is busy searching the house we should gather some more cash and use it on equipment. Next, the Black Cats head towards floor 27 dungeon. They see the magical door, open it, and find a treasure box. All of them become happy except Kirito. Suddenly, a group of monsters come and start killing carelessly. Kirito fights hard but could not be able to save anyone. Sachai also gets killed and Kirito starts mourning. Next, Kirito speaks with Asuna on floor 49 Mugen where they are spending Christmas Eve. Asuna tells Nicholas the renegade is the boss of the event. Kirito believes to beat Nicholas and get an item for reviving dead men. Afterward, he goes to floor 35 Forest Maze where he finds Klein and his company. Klein tells Kirito not to strive for an item as it is futile. Meanwhile, the monsters of Holy Dragon Alliance show up and Klein begs Kirito to run away. After covering some distance, he finds Nicholas the renegade. He kills Nicholas swiftly and returns to Klein with the revival item. Kirito gives it to Klein and urges that whoever dies near you, use this to revive. Klein gets emotional and yells you would stay alive, Kirito. Later, Kirito receives an item in which Sachai recorded a message. Sachai tells, "I know I was not strong enough to compete and you were always there to help us. I enjoyed every moment I spent with you and I know the way things are going on. I would not be able to survive. I want you to live and fight till the end to know the reasons for both real and virtual worlds." After listening to this, Kirito bursts into tears. Episode 3 concludes. Episode 4 starts when a woman denies giving the crystal to her team member. Silica, who wants a crystal, is told that you have a lizard healer to rely upon. Silica walks through floor 35, Lost Forest, where she thinks she can get through. But her lizard healer, Pina, was killed. The monsters are almost taking over Silica. However, Kirito arrives and kills every monster. Silica tells Kirito about Pina. Kirito responds you can revive it back from floor 4 to 7, Hill of Memories. Next, Kirito gives her his level and explains you need to raise it for revival in 3 days. Kirito explains I am helping you because resemble my younger sister. Silica walks through floor 35, Missy with Kirito where he finds 2 guys. Those guys want Silica to join them but she replies she is already with Kirito. Silica then finds the same female who refused to give her crystal. The female learns the situation and tells Silica you are too weak to bring Pina. Kirito assures the female that Silica would bring. Later, both Silica and Kirito enjoy cheesecakes in a restaurant. Kirito also explains the difference between green, orange, and red cursors and reveals how dangerous orange and red cursors can be. During the night, Kirito shows Silica a mirage sphere through which they can access floor 4 to 7. Kirito hears a door knocking and tells Silica we have to be alert about eavesdropping. They both head to floor 4 to 7, Floria which is covered with flowers. Silica feels low by seeing couples. Kirito handovers a crystal item to Silica and tells her to use it when you face any danger. They head towards Hill of Memories and find a couple of monsters in the middle, but those are too weak to compete. Silica also asks about the story of Kirito's sister. Kirito shares each and everything his sister supported him when his father was strict. Finally, they get to Numa reviving flower. Silica picks it up and turns her way back. Surprisingly, they find the same female, Rosalia, who wants that flower. Silica disagrees and Kirito depicts how Rosalia attacked silver flags and killed people except for the leader. They were looking for vengeance, not to kill you but to put you behind the bars. Henceforth, Rosalia abruptly orders her men to attack. Her men know about the levels and solo performance of Kirito with an assault team. They try hard to beat Kirito, but all in vain. Kirito explains he is having level 78 with 14,500 HP. Kirito says that he has a warp crystal and can send you to prison. Rosalia and her men have nothing to do but surrender. Lastly, Kirito apologizes to Silica for not sharing everything with her, yet Silica finds him a good man. It's time for Kirito to leave and hopes they both would meet in the real world. Silica is about to revive Pina and episode 4 ends here. Episode 5 commences when a team attends a meeting on floor 56. Pani, Asuna, vice commander of the Knights of Blood Oath, decides to set a mission. Kirito explains how the boss is killing NPC, but Asuna believes those are mere objects. Kirito decides not to leave for a mission, but Asuna warns him, "You have to obey me by all means since I get hold of this mission." However, Kirito has to agree, and they start their journey. Agile asks Kirito, "You and Asuna always mess up with the things which I have been noticing." After a short while, Asuna finds Kirito taking a nap. She makes it clear that it is a waste of time, but Kirito says he is loving the combination of wind and sunlight. It is better if you take a rest and enjoy the weather too. After a while, Kirito wakes up and is surprised to see Asuna is enjoying a sound sleep. Some people pass by that place and feels odd to see them sluggish. They call them sore losers. Asuna wakes up after a long while and decides to offer Kirito something to eat. Next, they start taking a meal on floor 57. Martin and everyone begin to talk about Asuna. People are astonished to see Kirito with her too. Asuna pays thanks to Kirito for taking care of her during the long sleep. Suddenly, they hear a scream and abruptly go out. One of the duel men loses his life while hanging on a balcony with a sword passed through his chest. Both Kirito and Asuna inquire about the situation. The girl Yoko steps up and tells them she was having dinner with Kynes and we both belong to the same guild. Therefore, Asuna and Kirino decide to reach out to Agile, who knows the item thing on floor 50 Algade. He concludes that this sword is made by Grimlock, a player. It is known as a guilty thorn. Asuna and Kirino then move to Yoko, who knows about Grimlock. She said Graisalo was the leader of our guild, Golden Apple. A monster who we defeated dropped a ring once and people voted to keep it or sell it. It was more in favor of selling it. Graisalo was Grimlock's partner in the game, and he might have killed her as he was the one who opposed selling it. Yoko adds I and Kynes were also against selling, and Schmidt too, who currently leads Holy Dragon Alliance. Yoko wants to have Schmidt on the radar as he may know about the situation. Afterward, Schmidt shows up and is furious to know the situation going on. Schmidt reveals it's been 6 months since Graisala died and how the vengeance could happen now. Yoko reveals probably the murder in the safe zone converts Graisala into a ghost. Suddenly, a sword stabs Yoko. She falls from a building and died. Episode 5 concludes. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. Today I'm going to explain episode 6 to 10 of the Sword Art Online. Be ready for some spoilers are ahead. Episode 6 begins dramatically when Kirito begins to run after the one who kills Yoko. Kirito sees an item in his hand that the murderer uses for teleportation. He disappears at once. Kirito returns to Asuna, who gets mad at him. Schmidt realizes it can be Graisala's ghost. Kirito disagrees with the existence of ghosts. Afterward, Asuna offers something to eat to Kirito. Kirito tastes it and feels it delicious. Asuna warns him to eat swiftly or else it will get disappeared due to the object's durability. Kirito keeps on talking until the eatable gets disappeared. He judges it is the object in the safer zone that gets disappeared, not the player. Furthermore, Schmidt reaches out to Graisala's grave and asks for forgiveness by crying bitterly. Suddenly, a monster appears and Schmidt considers her Graisala. Schmidt begins to reveal a story that he had a crystal in his pouch and the instructions were given to him. Another monster appears and Schmidt considers him Grimlock. Schmidt says that I was instructed to place the crystal in the guild store. He hears a different voice at once and sees Kynes and Yoko up front. They both have recorded what Schmidt described. Later, Asuna and Kirito come to know through Schmidt that Kynes and Yoko are alive. Kirito adds that Kynes had an object on his chest, and since his HP did not drop to 0, he used a crystal teleport to stay alive. The object tends to disappear here. Kirito further says Yoko did not show her back when she was talking with us and only showed when the equipment's durability fell to 0. Henceforth, they conclude a trick is played by Kynes and Yoko to exhibit their fake death in a safe zone to make people think about it. In this way, they would be able to get to Grisela's murderer. This is the reason they make Schmidt the scapegoat. Schmidt, however, explains that Kynes and I never had enmity with Grisela, and the money I used for the weapon. Suddenly, Schmidt gets the dagger and witnesses 3 monsters appear with a group named Laughing Coffin. Now then, Kynes, Yoko, and Schmidt fear the situation. Laughing Coffin decided to kill them, but Kirito shows up with a horse, stops them, and warns he has backup players to battle. Laughing Coffin has to concede and retreats. Yoko apologizes for the activities they are performing. Kynes depicts that we have to beg Grimlock to make a weapon for us. Kirito explains Grimlock is doing so to get the attention. While sitting in a restaurant, Asuna tells Kirito that a person should marry another player for the sake of shared storage. It creates love and the store stays open. Kirito makes fun of it at first and then realizes if this is the case, who would get the storage if one of the spouse dies. They put the scenario of Grimlock and Grisela, thus concluding it is Grimlock who is having storage and possession of a ring. At once, Asuna and Kirito reach out to Yoko and shares everything. Kirito explains Grimlock did not kill himself but selected murderers to kill Grisela, and those were Laughing Coffin. Soon after, Asuna appears with the Grimlock. Grimlock shares that Grisela was a good lover in the real world, but as soon as he came into the virtual world, she became changed. I found no other option but to make her kill. Grimlock confesses and kneels. Schmidt pays thanks to Kirito and urges, since it is our matter so let us deal with it. Next, Asuna desires to be friends with Kirito. Before leaving for the restaurant, they see Grisela appears above the grave who is smiling at them. They turn out to be emotional. Episode 6 concludes. Episode 7 commences when a girl Lisbeth aka Liz is sharpening a sword for Asuna on floor 48 Linda's. The girl has to move out to meet someone and Liz begins to tease her. Kirito appears in Elizabeth Smith's shop and asks if Liz can make a sword for him. Liz shows him her favorite masterpiece, but its durability is lost during a shadow practice. Liz gets frustrated and requests Kirito to head to Western Mountain to get the best metal for the sword. Later, they both reach out to floor 55 Western Mountain. Liz feels an intense cold. Kirito gives him his jumper and requests Liz to hide behind the crystal if a dragon shows up. Consequently, the dragon appears and Liz hides behind the crystal. She is stunned by the skills of Kirito and the way he is battling the dragon single-handedly. Despite the warning, Liz moves out, and she has to become a victim of the dragon, which attacks her and throws her into the hole. While she is in the air, Kirito holds her, and they both fall into the hole, assuring they both are alright. Afterward, Liz wants to hold the hand of Kirito, which she does, and they both fall asleep. The following morning, Liz finds Kirito digging the ice to get the crystal metal. He gets that the crystal is called a crystalline ingot. Kirito attempts to run up the wall for survival but fails. The dragon comes back again. While battling, both Kirito and Liz use Dragon's body to get out of the hole. They get away from that and enjoy the time when the wind is blowing heavily. Liz loves this moment and turns up. She hugs Kirito warmly. Finally, they reach out to floor 48 Linda's. Liz thanks once I forged the crystal to turn it into a sword. I will show my feelings to Kirito. The sword is forged and Kirito feels it the best. Now, Liz begins to share what she feels for Kirito. She is on the verge until Asuna arrives. Asuna tells I was worried about you all day. After knowing that Kirito saves Liz, Asuna reveals I am the one who guided him about your shop. Kirito adds we are part of the same squad. Liz feels heartless and gets out of the spot. Kirito manages to find Liz and thanks to her for being a part of his life. Liz responds I should forget what I felt about you but the warmth of your hands will stay for a while. Liz urges Kirito to fight till the end to move to the real world. Lastly, she tells do come here to get the sword repaired. Episode 7 concludes. Episode 8 begins ferociously when Kirito is fighting with a monster. He manages to kill it and takes a sigh of relief. It's been 2 years now and Kirito is wondering how Akeko is feeling about it. Kirito then passes through a forest and kills the Ragout rabbit in his second attempt. He meets Agile on floor 50 Algade, who is surprised by the killings from Kirito. If it is not about money, you better cook the rabbit. Kirito responds it requires a skill to cook and Asuna appears on the spot. Afterward, Kirito decides Asuna will cook for him. Agile wants to taste the food, but Kirito leaves by saying that he would send him a review. Asuna decides to choose her place for cooking, but her bodyguard, Kirito, does not want Asuna to party up with Kirito. Asuna reveals to Kirito that Kirito has better skills than you, which Kirito finds insulting. People gather there to witness, and Asuna drags Kirito to her place on floor 61, Salzburg. The place amazes Kirito and finds it quite fancy and expensive. Asuna changes her cloth and is ready to cook. Kirito is impressed with the cooking skills of Asuna. She also cooks some side dishes. They both enjoy and eat it to the fullest. Asuna then explains how people are so obsessed with this place that they forget the real world. Kirito thinks the same way, but Asuna says, "I have to go back one day." Now then, Asuna offers Kirito to team up with her. Kirito asks about her bodyguard, and Asuna replies, "I will leave him." Kirito accepts the offer. Asuna thanks him for coming over and desires we will keep on eating like this many times. Later, Kirito is jumped over by Asuna. She falls over him, and Kirito feels some sensation that Asuna finds offensive. Asuna's bodyguard Kirito appears and requests Asuna to come along as per orders. However, Asuna reveals that she does not want to get protected. Kirito tries to take her away forcibly, but Kirito stops him and tells him he would protect Asuna. This leads them to the fight, and everyone is stunned when the Kirito's sword is demolished by Kirito. Kirito tries to resume the fight with another sword, and this time Asuna stops him and commands him to leave her and wait for further orders. Kirito leaves for Granzem angrily. Next, Asuna and Kirito manage to kill another monster on floor 74 dungeon. They find a door then and suspect this could be the boss's room. They open it and find a gigantic boss, the Gleam Eyes. They are shocked, and episode 8 ends here. Episode 9 starts when the boss tries to attack them. Both Kirito and Asuna find themselves weak and move out. They sit in a corner talking to use a shield sword to combat the boss. Asuna tells she does not use the shield as her sword gets delicate. Asuna is astonished why Kirito is not using the sword Liz made for him. Anyhow, Asuna offers Kirito to eat something and shows him what she has cooked in the Aincrad so far. Suddenly, Klein and his men appear and are surprised to see Kirito with a girl. Klein asks, "You are a solo player, but what is that girl thing?" Asuna responds, "I have been partying up with him for much time." Klein's teammates could not keep their eyes off Asuna. Hereafter, troops of the Aincrad Liberation Army come there. They all are tired except for Colonel Korvats. Colonel wants to get the map from Kirito to enter the boss room. Klein does not want Kirito to give away, as they have faced many challenges for that. Colonel responds, "We have been kind to the civilians, so it's your turn now." Kirito gives it to him, and the tired army marches toward the boss's room. During so, Klein kills his last dragon, and fearing Kazan Guild is all set to enter the boss room. Kirito hears the scream from troops in the boss room and suggests using crystal teleport. Unfortunately, it is not working. Korvats dies in front Kirito. They have to enter the room, which they do. They find the troops injured. Kirito thinks about Sachai at this time. Henceforth, Kirito and Asuna start fighting with the boss. Kirito requests Asuna and Klein to keep the boss's concentration away for 10 seconds. Afterward, Kirito gets the skill that he is always scared to use. He uses that skill, fighting hard against the boss. The rest of the players are stunned. Asuna is scared while Klein stays speechless. Kirito finally manages to kill the boss. He becomes unconscious for some moments as the usage of skill brings him to his lowest HP. As soon as he gets conscious, Asuna cries bitterly and hugs Kirito tightly. Next, Klein wants to know the skill, and Kirito responds it's a dual-wielding skill. Klein receives no information about that skill ever before and forbids Kirito to share it with anyone. Klein then departs the place by praising Kirito. Kirito then heads to floor 50, Algade, where he receives appreciation from Agile. Moreover, Asuna appears and tells Kirito we have an issue to deal with. It is the commander of Knights of the Blood Oath, Heathcliff, who calls them upon on floor 55, Granzem. Heathcliff complains, "If you want to keep Asuna by your side, you have to compete with me with your dual welding. If you win, Asuna is yours. Losing means you will join Knights of the Blood Oath." Kirito agrees, and episode 9 ends here. Episode 10 begins on floor 75. Kalinia is all set to host the fight. Spectators are gathering in number. Asuna tells Kirito that Heathcliff has a unique skill. Kirito already knows it all about the Divine Blade of Heathcliff, best for the attack and defense. Asuna complains that it is just happening because of me. It's time for a fight now, and the crowd is roaring. Kirito starts attacking, and Heathcliff is defending easily. Heathcliff is impressed with Kirito's skills. Soon after, Kirito finds a room to attack. He thinks he is there, but Heathcliff attacks him and throws him to the other side. Kirito's HP level drops and Heathcliff wins. The crowd goes berserk. Afterward, Kirito is dressed in a uniform. With a slight disappointment, Asuna asks Kirito why he feels reluctant to join the guild. Kirito shares he was once a part of the guild named Moonlit Black Cats. Their levels were quite low, but those people were full of life. They all were killed one day, including Sachai. I survived because of my high levels. Asuna feels for him and tells him I am not going to die and will help him in all challenges. Now the forward commander of the guild, Godfrey, wants to party with Kirito. Asuna dislikes the idea as she believes Kirito is more skillful. Godfrey reminds Asuna that you cannot betray the orders. Kirito has to accept it and moves to the western gate. Godfrey brings Kirito and requests to end the differences. Kirito apologizes for being so rude to Kirito. Godfrey then gets their crystal to assess how they face the danger. Eventually, they get to floor 55 dungeon entrance, where Godfrey orders them to take a break. When they start drinking, Godfrey gets poison and Kirito gets some of it too. It was Kirito who mixed poison in their drinks. Kirito finds no time to kill Godfrey as he wants to be authoritative. Kirito reaches out to Kirito, who notices Kirito is from a laughing coffin guild. Kirito strikes Kirito hard until he drops to the lowest HP. He gathers courage by thinking of Asuna. Kirito is on the brink of his death and suddenly Asuna appears and slams Kirito badly. Kirito begs that he wants to live, but suddenly he lifts a sword and Kirito gets in the middle. He is injured, but it does not stop him to kill Kirito. Both Asuna and Kirito promise they would help out each other and will get to the real world. Therefore, Kirito wants to spend a night with Asuna. Asuna expects some romance, but Kirito tells I just want to spend. Later, Kirito promises Asuna to buy a house in the southwest of floor 22 and will get married. Asuna affirms and tears of joy flow from her eyes. Episode 10 concludes. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. Today, I am going to explain episode 11 to 15 of the Sword Art Online. Be ready for some spoilers are ahead. Episode 11 begins when both Asuna and Kirito present before Heathcliff on floor 55 grands him. Asuna asks for a few days off from a guild which Heathcliff approves, making sure they would return to the battlefield soon. Kirito buys a house on floor 22 and Asuna gets excited. Asuna says Kirito, not only in the virtual world, I want to fall in love with you in the real world too. They spend a romantic night, and the following morning Asuna urges him to move out for fun. Later, they head the northeast and Kirito carries Asuna on his shoulder. While passing through the lake, people wave at them, which excites Asuna. They reach the forest and Kirito explains real ghosts exist here and roam at night. He says that a carpenter saw a ghost in the nearby trees 7 days ago. Asuna suddenly sees someone nearby a tree and gets scared. She asks Kirito and Kirito approaches that thing. It is a girl who gets unconscious, not a ghost. Asuna feels sorry for the girl and tells Kirito she is too little to play this game. Next, Kirito and Asuna take her into their house. Kirito tells she cannot be NPCs or else I am cautioned with harassment. Nor she is a quest giver, Asuna responds. They are concerned about her parents now. Kirito sleeps while Asuna gets to the girl and falls asleep with her. The following morning, the girl awakes and both Asuna and Kirito ask her name. She is struggling to memorize anything. Anyhow, her name is Yui. Yui does not even remember who their parents are and considers Kirito and Asuna her parents. Afterward, they enjoy spicy food and Yui falls asleep again. Kirito discusses we should head back to the town of beginnings in search of Yui's parents. Kirito alerts Asuna to keep the weapons as that is more an army vicinity. While walking through the town of beginnings, they find the place quite empty. Kirito tells there are less than 2,000 people now, including the army. Suddenly they hear a shriek and reach out to that place. Troops of the army try to snatch everything from one of the daycares, Miss Sasha and her children. The army wants everything that females possess. On the spot, Asuna tells the children you are in safe hands now. The troops get annoyed as they have not seen Asuna and Kirito before. Asuna requests Kirito to stay with the children. Asuna attacks one of the Liberation Army members and says your HP will not reduce as it is a safe place. The rest of the members are horrified by this moment and run away. Miss Sasha and her children praise Asuna and thank her for saving their lives. Suddenly, Yui looks at the sky trying to remember something. Both Asuna and Kirito are stunned. Yui's body begins to tremble and gets unconscious. Asuna and Kirito fail to understand this part, and episode 11 ends here. Episode 12 begins when all the children Sasha keeps are taking meals and having fun. Kirito, Asuna, and Yui take a meal with Sasha too. Sasha shares ever since these children suffer from trauma. I keep them in this church. Suddenly, a girl appears at the door. Yulia requests Asuna and Kirito for help. Yulia reveals the top priority of our guild was to share information and food under the leader's supervision thinker. The guild tend to increase and more powers took charge. One of them is Kibeo, who wanted to be dominant. Yulia further says Kibeo started neglecting duties and kept the highest level players by his side. He kept the thinker in the dungeon, and he did not have anything to save himself the time when he had to talk to Kibeo. Kibeo warns everyone, including the army, not to save thinker. Yulia says she is low level and needs help. Asuna finds trust issues at first, but later they agree. Next, they walk through Town of Beginning's Black Iron Castle to save thinker. In the middle, they find monsters that are not strong enough. Kirito kills them in no time and gets frog meat in return. Asuna throws that all away as she hates it for cooking purposes. Yulia smiles and Yui notices it happily. Yulia finds Thinker from a distance and starts running toward him. Thinker asks her to stop as there is a massive monster in the middle. The monster throws the sword at Yulia, but Kirito saves her in the nick of the time. Asuna requests Yulia to take Yui to a safer place and wait for us. Kirito could not recognize the monster with his skills. Kirito begs Asuna to run away with the rest of the people. She disagrees and commands Yulia to use teleport to run away. In the meantime, the monster smashes both Kirito and Asuna, and their HP level drops to half. However, Yui detaches herself from Yulia when she teleports. Yui comes in front of the monster and Asuna screams that this could be dangerous. Astonishingly, Yui kills that monster. Kirito and Asuna eyes could not believe what they are watching. Yui then reveals she remembers everything now. Yui explains that she is run by the Cardinal program, whose job is to keep everything balanced in SAO. She deals with the psychological part of players. She was so disturbed by the negative feelings of the players that she had to get closer to them without doing anything since she was not allowed to. By interacting too much, she got unconscious in the forest. She explained that she had to meet with you as you were quite normal with different levels. You took me from the forest and her wish was fulfilled. Yui says it's time for me to get deleted from Cardinal as I killed the monster. Both Asuna and Kirito get sentimental. Yui thanked them and requests to keep spreading happiness. Yui is deleted and Kirito accesses the system to bring Yui back. Kirito extracts an item that is the heart of Yui. She gives it to Asuna. Lastly, all the people from the floor, including Thinker and Yulia, see Kirito and Asuna off. By reaching floor 22, Asuna asks would we see Yui in the real world. Kirito replies it will be hard to bring her back, but we will do everything. Yui says, good luck from the sky. Episode 12 concludes. Episode 13 commences when Kirito is fishing on floor 22, lake outside Coral City. He fails to catch any and he is scared of the arrival of fisherman Nishida. Nishida picks up a fish and tells Kirito that he cannot cook. Kirito offers his help and they enjoy the meal afterward. He appreciates Asuna, who makes a meal for them. Kirito is slightly disappointed with his fishing skills, but Nishida explains the lake where you were fishing is the hardest of lakes and contains a king of all fish. Nishida also tries it once but failed. He says Kirito to join him next time catching that fish. Later, at night, Kirito and Asuna recall the day and understand Nishida as a funny guy. They assume that people here are happy living their ordinary lives. Being a strong contender, Asuna tells Kirito that he should step up always as people around him expect a lot from him. Afterward, both join Nishida in the vent where they have to catch the mighty fish. People are gathered in numbers. Nishida puts the fishing rod in the lake, feels the target, and asks Kirito to switch. Henceforth, the fish finally come out of the lake and everyone gets scared as it looks like a monstrous fish. Asuna here steps up and kills the fish. People are astonished and praise Asuna. Meanwhile, Kirito receives a message from Heathcliff. After a while, Asuna explains there must be something important, and we better hear from Heathcliff. They meet Nishida on floor 22, Coral Teleport Gate Plaza, where he thanks them for the wonderful time. Nishida says, I have given up hopes of leaving for the real world. Asuna understands his feelings and tells me I used to think the same way. She starts recalling the things of the past 2 years to Nishida and tells how her life changed when she met Kirito. Kirito is the reason I am living in this world. After saying all this, both Kirito and Asuna leave for floor 55, Grand Zen, where Heathcliff reveals how the members of 5 guilds became the victim of the boss. The fight began when the entrance was closed and 10 members were up front. After a while, the door opened but no one was there, including the boss. Heathcliff motivates, "We are not giving up on this and will retaliate." Kirito agrees, but he says if things go worst, he would protect Asuna more than others while protecting. Kirito asks Asuna not to go for a fight. She replies, "I cannot keep your life at risk and stay safe here." She keeps her in Kirito's arms and wishes to live the rest of her life with him. They'd promise to protect each other, no matter what. Later, they head to floor 7-5, Kalinia Teleport Gate Plaza, where they find a number of players, including Agile and Klein. Heathcliff arrives and lets everyone enter the boss room. He instructs that the Knights of Blood Oath would defend while the rest will attack. In the room, they find no one, but Asuna feels it right above. The boss is the Skull Reaper. The boss kills a couple of players in one attempt. Kirito is shocked. There is great chaos and Agile and Klein ready to attack. In no time, the boss kills more players. Kirito orders to attack from the sides. Agile and Klein get into action. Heathcliff uses every skill, and Asuna and Kirito are at the nearest from the boss to attack. Episode 13 ends here. Episode 14 begins when the frontline players are attacking fondly. Heathcliff notices the HP level of the Skull Reaper drops down significantly. He orders the rest of the players to attack. All attack the boss and kill to the death. Everyone's breathing hard and Kirito declares about 14 are dead. Agile is worried about how they are going to deal with the rest of the 25 floors. Kirito senses something weird as he finds no real drop in Heathcliff's HP. He rushes towards him and gets to know about his mortality. Next, Kirito explains Heathcliff is protected by the system and his HP cannot be dropped to yellow. Everyone gets shocked. Kirito catches, "If it is so, you are Akeko Kayava." Everyone's scared. Heathcliff is Akeko and Kirito reveals, "I understood during the duel." Akeko says, "I had to convert the assist mode to kill you since you had dual wielding." Akeko surprises everyone by saying, "I am the final floor boss, and if you get there you will meet me at the Ruby Palace." One of the players tries to attack Akeko, but he makes him paralyzed. Akeko challenges Kirito to fight with him, and if he wins, everyone will have a logout option to leave this world. Kirito recalls all the players who died in the mission and accepts the challenge. Before getting into a fight, Kirito thanks Agile for his help toward average players and apologizes Klein for not partying up with him. Kirito also puts a condition in front of Akeko that if he dies, Asuna will not kill herself. Akeko accepts it. Eventually, the fight begins and Kirito uses every ounce of his skills to compete. Suddenly, his sword is broken. Akeko raises his sword to kill Kirito, but Asuna comes in the middle. Boom. Asuna dies and Kirito's eyes could not believe it. He becomes helpless. Now Kirito is hit with a sword. It seems like it's over for him too. But it is not. Kirito hits Akeko back and they both are dead. Akeko's death means the game is clear. Kirito is descended to heaven where he meets Asuna. They become extremely happy. Next, Akeko appears and Kirito is shocked. Akeko reveals the system is deleting it and we all are going to get disappeared. 6,147 people successfully logged out while those who died will stay dead. Akeko adds, "I did this because I wanted to create a world of my own in which I can set the rules and have nothing to do with the Earth's matters. This is ending, but probably I would have something like this in another world. It's time." Akeko dies. Afterward, Kirito apologizes to Asuna for not taking her into the real world. Asuna still feels happy as Kirito remained a part of her life. Everything gets disappeared, and then Kirito opens up his eyes in the hospital. He removes the nerve gear and starts walking out of the hospital by sobbing Asuna. Episode 14 concludes. Episode 15 commences when Kirito is having a beautiful time with Asuna. Suddenly, Asuna gets disappeared, which makes Kirito wakes up. Well, he was dreaming. Afterward, he calls her sister, Sugu, who is practicing at dojo. Kirito holds the stick and feels that quite lighter than the sword he used. Kirito wants to have a match with Sugu, telling her that he has still the grandfather's gear. Sugu thinks Kirito has not practiced for years, however Sugu is convinced and they are having a battle. At first, Sugu is surprised by Kirito's stance, then after a few moments, she hits him on the helmet and secures the win. Sugu confirms whether Kirito is alright. It's all fine and Kirito is impressed and praises Sugu. Kirito adds, "I will gain more muscles and will have training under your supervision." Sugu says she has been practicing too but cannot reveal. Kirito tells her he has to leave for the hospital. Sugu understands that he is badly missing Asuna. It's been 2 months since Kirito killed Akeko and informed his completion of SAO to Interior Minister. They know the location of Asuna. Kirito reached out to a Takurazawa hospital to see Asuna. Asuna's father, Yuki, shows up and makes Kirito meet with Sugu. Sugu talks about the marriage with Asuna that stuns Kirito. Yuki takes a leave then and Sugu tells Kirito that though Asuna hates me, I will marry her. At the time when Company Argus was bankrupted, its servers were given to electronic maker RCT. Yuki was the CEO and I managed the technical stuff, so it's time that the Yuki family goes for the compensation. Kirito feels sad and Sugu takes him into her arm. Sugu then recalls how her mother told Kirito everything. Sugu came to know that Kirito is her cousin, but he gives his heart to someone else. The morning approaches, Sugu leaves for the practice and Agile sends a message to Kirito. Kirito opens up the message and is astonished to see the picture of Asuna. Episode 15 concludes. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. Today I am going to explain episodes 16 to 17 of the Sword Art Online. Be ready for some spoilers are ahead. Episode 16 begins when Kirito gets to Agile and talks about the picture. However, Agile discusses the game's first MMO atmosphere, known as Alfheim Online. Its meaning is Land of Fairies. Kirito is surprised by the meaning. Agile says it requires skills and peaking skill is appreciated. There is now a sword and you have to fly through a flight engine. Agile further says once you understand the mechanism, you can fly. Next, Agile reveals there is a world tree in it, and it has a concern with Asuna's picture. Players are divided into 9 races, competing to reach the castle first. There is a time limit to fly. 5 players are carried on their shoulders and fly like a rocket. Kirito finds it insane. Agile continues that once Loose Cats did not manage to reach the lower branch, they took photos. A weird thing appeared in a bird cage having someone in it. Agile concludes that someone is Asuna. Kirito is shocked and Agile says it's the progression RCT that takes Asuna there. Suddenly Kirito reminds what Sugu says and takes software from Agile with a recommendation to use Nerve Gear Atmosphere. Agile motivates Kirito to save Asuna. Later, Kirito reaches out to Sugu and tells her that I am going to bring back Asuna. Sugu wishes him good luck. Therefore, Kirito wears Nerve Gear and reaches Alfheim Online. Kirito selects the Spriggan race and he is thrown to Ancient Forest. Kirito becomes excited watching the logout option. Surprisingly, his skills in SAO are mentioned in the window status. After connecting, Yui appears and she directly hugs Kirito by calling Daddy. Later, Yui explains this world is a copy of the SAO system and Cardinal system here is obsolete. Kirito assumes RCT takes over Argus and transforms the system of SAO. Yui confirms that the characters of the data are the same and the skills are redefined. Yui requests to delete all the system of SAO before an error gets in its way. Kirito deletes that with slight difficulty. Afterward, Yui tells Kirito that his skills are not going to be identified unless someone has them before. Upon asking, Yui checks her recognition and finds Navigation Pixie, which is an artificial program. Yui shows her pixie form and tells Kirito she has access to a wide-range map. Kirito explains to Asuna that I am in search of her, and she might be in World Tree. Kirito tells that I was teleported to an empty forest rather than World Tree. Yui says it might be interference. Kirito has his wings now. Yui directs Kirito on how to fly. Kirito begins to fly and Yui shares that if the wings are shining you can fly or else you have to give it a rest. Afterward, Yui explains about the nearest town, i.e. Yui's self-territory Sylvain, as Kirito wants to get there. Yui senses some players in the surroundings. Those are Lifa and Recon who face the monster. Recon has disappeared after an attack, however Lifa is trapped. Kirito appears there and monsters jump toward him. Kirito blocks them. It is unexpected for Lifa. Lifa grants Yui permission and Kirito kills one of those. He is calling for another one and episode 16 ends here. Episode 17 commences when Kirito kills a couple of monsters and asks for the last one. He responds, my energy level will drop down and I cannot compete. Lifa explains I would be better next time. The monster goes by saying I will bring more players to fight. There are lights on the ground and Lifa explains those who are killed minds are active and soon will get disappeared. Lifa asks if he wants to fight. Kirito answers I saved your life, so you better get emotional and place your arms around me. Lifa gets aggressive. Yui appears and Lifa recognizes her as a part of Private Pixie. Kirito tells me I got lost and could not find my place. Lifa tells Spriggan's territory is on the eastern side. Lifa thanks Kirito for saving her life. However, Kirito is curious about the World Tree. Leafa says it's in Sylph territory, and you cannot attack them, but they can. We can get to that place, but I provide no assurances on your life. Next, Leafa teaches Kirito how to fly without controllers. But Kirito is poor at the landing, which is why he falls badly. Leafa heals him and tells us that Undines can do this while Spriggans are good at hunting and illusion magic. Both are futile in battle. Meanwhile, Recon appears and Leafa tells Kirito saved my life. Both Kirito and Recon greet each other. Recon tells Sigurd to save a seat for us in the bar, we better go there. Leafa denies it and adds I will take a drink with Kirito as he saved my life. They enjoy drinking and Kirito asks about Recon. Leafa ferociously answers he is only a part of our team. Kirito urges to get to the top of World Tree. Leafa tells by passing the floating city, a fairy king will be reborn called Alfs. Those who do this will fly as much as they can. Leafa adds one needs to pass the base of a dome and pass by an NPC guardian that defends the dome to reach the top of the World Tree. All races cannot contribute together to it. Kirito gets angry and urges to be the one to reach. Kirito bluntly says I have to find someone. Leafa decides she will help Kirito by taking him to the top of World Tree. She departs by logging off and starts thinking about him. Kirito pledges Yui that they both would find Asuna together. Furthermore, Suyuo, who is known as Oberon in this world, keeps Titania Aki Asuna. Suyuo tries to lose his emotions over Titania, but pledges that he cannot do it forcibly. Oberon is the fairy king who develops technology that can implant objects into human memories and erase them. Asuna is scared of his actions. Suyuo reveals that he will sell RCT for a substantial amount. This is hurting Asuna, and she wishes that Kirito must save her from him. Episode 17 concludes. Episode 18 starts when Suyuha thinks of the virtual world. After seeing her brother, she is curious to fly with Alfheim online. She is ready to sacrifice anything for the sake of flying. Next, Nagata stops her Leafa. Leafa is Suyuha, who hates to be called this name at school. Neither Leafa nor Suyuha loves to be called Miss Kirigea. Nagata tells that Sigurd is planning for hunting, but Kirigea is unable to join as she has to spend flying time with Kirito. Moreover, she says that she has to move Aaron, the base of World Tree. Leafa Aka Suyuha gets into the virtual world and Kirito joins her at Sylph territory, Sylvian. Kirito has to buy equipment first. Leafa takes Kirito to the huge building where he can start things off for the quest. Meanwhile, Sigurd arrives and asks Leafa why she is not joining them at the party. Leafa responds to Sigurd that it was you who said you can quit at any second. Henceforth, Sigurd says that this move can destroy the reputation of the party. Furthermore, Kirito is enraged and tells Sigurd that no one is your equipment here to use. Sigurd warns him by raising his sword. Leafa wholeheartedly decides to join Kirito's party. Sigurd tells that you can be killed for betraying us. Leafa thereafter takes Kirito to the top of the building. Kirito feels for Leafa. On the same path, Kirito enjoys the view of the sky too. Upon asking, Leafa says renegades are the ones who dismiss their territories. Yui abruptly says it's hard to figure out human minds. Later, Recon arrives and figures out the situation. He says to Leafa that he wants to go with her but have to investigate something, that is why I am staying with Sigurd's party. Recon depicts that Leafa gets into trouble at once, so take care of her. Both Leafa and Kirito start flying and Yui asks if it is obvious that Recon likes Leafa. Leafa gets annoyed and takes the lead by telling us that we have to reach out the lake. On the other side, Suyuo keeps on teasing Asuna by touching her. Asuna tells that Kirito will save me one day. Suyuo tells her I met him in the real world, and when I told him that I would be marrying Asuna, his face turned pale. I was dumbfounded when I came to know that he beat the SAO. For now, I should send the wedding invitation. In this way, he will come to you. Asuna gets happy that Kirito is alive. Asuna remembers the password of the cage too. Both Kirito and Leafa kill monsters in ancient forest. They take some rest then. Leafa tells the altitude of the mountain is tough. It's the hardest part between Aaron and Sylph territory. One can take a rest midway since caves are massive. Leafa and Kirito decide to log off and switch. Leafa gets logged off and gets to her home thinking about Kirito all the time. Later, Leafa is back and finds Kirito eating Sylvain's specialty. Leafa tries that but could not bear it. Kirito struggles to fly and Leafa tells him that it's a tracking magic. We can only get away from this situation when the tracer is weak, or else it will be useless. Both Leafa and Kirito start flying and episode 18 ends here. Episode 19 begins when Leafa and Kirito get into Legru Corridor. Leafa is impressed by the night vision magic and praises Spriggans. Kirito starts learning the magic which is the key. Lifa depicts projecting illusion can be your strength, whereas Lane Spriggan will leave no difference between life and death. Kirito is taunted here. Well, Kirito is told that 20 words of magic are worthwhile. Meanwhile, Recon sends a message to Lifa. It is, "Be careful, S." They fail to understand what is S. Yui finds some movements of players. Knowing they are plenty, Lifa casts a spell to hide. Since the tracer is strong, Lifa has to kill the bat. Now, enemies are ready for the counterattack. Those are salamanders who are marching. Furthermore, Kirito wants Lifa to hold his back for healing purposes. Kirito attacks, but in vain. They cast a spell that lowers Kirito's HP. Lifa heals a couple of times. Yui shows up and requests Lifa humbly to use mana. It enables to block the magic of the opponents. Lifa does so, and at once Kirito casts an illusion spell that turns him into a monster to kill all the enemies and leaves one for Lifa's interrogation. Therefore, the salamander tells how Jitakusu made squads to kill 2. You defeated Kajimune, that's why he came with 12. It's an order from high authorities to kill both of you. As promised. Kirito gives Yuld to that guy. Lifa asks Kirito about that monster thing. It is probably the same as Yui suggested. Kirito suddenly bites the hand of Lifa and gets a slap in return. Lifa then logs off to resume contact with Recon. However, as she gets into the real world, she talks to Nagata. Nagata reveals Sigurd's sold-out self-leader Sakuya, and they are mingling up with salamanders. However, Sakuya joined hands with Kate Sith. Both Lifa and Kirito run toward Butterfly Valley, where Sylph and Kate Sith will commence a meeting. Lifa suggests that Kirito join hands with salamanders if he wants to conquer World Tree. Things would be easy for you afterward being a mercenary for them. You could even kill me too for your benefit. Contrary to this, Kirito responds, "I used to think that way, but I will not kill any of my dearest ones for my benefit." Kirito and Lifa move toward the exit door with Yui by overcoming the monsters. Episode 19 concludes. Episode 20 begins when both Lifa and Kirito move out of the exit door and start flying. They are getting to Butterfly Valley, and they have 20 minutes to move towards the northwest. Yui senses 68 players of Salamander and 14 of Sylph and Kate Sith. Lifa advises Kirito to move to World Tree and I will save Sakuya. However, Kirito highly disagrees. Now then, Salamander attacks and Kirito reaches in the nick of the time. Lifa greets Sakuya and assures her Kirito is our main explosive. Kirito speaks to Commander of Salamanders that he is here to trade with Sylphs and Kate Sith. If you intervene, you have to face the music then. You are coming across 4 races. Contrary to this, Commander considers them lackluster and tells Kirito that if you survive for 30 seconds, I will keep your words. Commander attacks and Sakuya tells Commander has demonic sword Graham. Commander Eugene is the younger brother of Salander's leader Mortimer. Eugene has the strongest reflexes. This is going to be tough for Kirito. In addition, this sword has the bonus skill of Ethereal Shift. Commander, however, negates the idea of 30 seconds and keeps on fighting. Kirito musters up his courage and takes assistance from Lifa. Kirito surprises everyone by disappearing and suddenly he starts beating Black and Blue Commander Eugene until he dies. Everyone gets stunned. No one could believe what they have witnessed and started praising Kirito. Afterward, Sakuya brings Eugene back to life. Eugene starts praising Kirito. Kirito asks Eugene to concede. Kajun arrives and tells Eugene that we became the victim of this. Spriggan and Undyne were there with him. Therefore, Eugene concedes and pledges that he will fight with Kirito again. Sakuya wants an explanation from Kirito and Lifa. Sakuya adds Sigurd underestimated us and they are bringing a 5.0 update with a reincarnation system. Power is key to Sigurd. Mortimer also takes part in reincarnation. Sigurd is shocked to see Sakuya alive. Sakuya says Eugene sends you warm wishes. Sigurd sees Lifa and understands the situation. Sakuya further depicts that your leader has taken rights from you and abandoned you from the territory. Sakuya concludes you can live your life in neutral territory as a renegade. Sigurd is broken into pieces. Later, Alicia and Sakuya offer Kirito to join their party. Kirito appreciates the offer but decides to stay with Lifa as she promised him to take him to World Tree. Lifa asks Sakuya if we would like to join you for the World Tree quest. Alicia responds it will take time. Kirito explains I am in search of someone. Before leaving, Kirito presents 100,000 pieces of Yuld to them. They thank him and depart. Both Kirito and Lifa set for Aruna. On the other side, Asuna opens up the cage by dialing the password and expects to do the best for Kirito. Episode 20 concludes. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. Today I am going to explain episode 21 to 25 of the Sword Art Online. Be ready for some spoilers are ahead. Episode 21 starts when Kirito and Leafa get to central capital Aaron. Kirito is amazed to see the views. Leafa describes it's the center of Alfheim and also the biggest city in the world. They are looking for a cheap hotel. Leafa tells Kirito, you boasted in front of Sakuya and gave all the wealth. Announcement is made that the server will be distorted for some time for scheduled maintenance. Players must log out 10 minutes in advance. Leafa asks Yui to find the hotel. Next, Yui senses the cheapest hotel. They start walking toward it. On the other side, Asuna goes through the opening. Sugu meets Kirito, who slept at 4. Kirito becomes mischievous and puts water on her back. Now Asuna is going through the hole looking for a console to log out. She finds a map of experiment hangar. She gets nervous. Sugu requests Kirito to make out, but Kirito denies it. He tells that he has to visit hospital. Sugu wants to go with Kirito and Kirito happily agrees, telling Asuna will be happy to see her. Asuna sees brains and remembers Suguo, who told her about holding memory in the control pattern. 2 persons are talking in the experiment hangar. Asuna hides. Sugu asks Kirito about his high school admission. Kirito says he has not studied for 2 years and I heard there is a school designed for Sao. Meanwhile, Asuna finds the system console. She gets to it 1 hit away from logging off, while Sugu and Kirito reach out hospital. Sugu becomes happy to see the massive hospital. Furthermore, Kirito tells Sugu about the qualities of Asuna, how she is matchless and known as Lightning Flash. Sugu finds Kirito holding Asuna's hand. Asuna fails to log out and is caught. The monsters pick her up. Asuna explains to leave her alone as Sugu is her friend. She adds, I took permission from Sugru. One of the monsters confirms Sugru. Sugru orders them to put her in the birdcage again. Next, Leafa explains to Kirito that her feelings are broken. They both set out for the mission. Kirito wants Leafa to stay behind, but Leafa denies it and tells him she would kill her feelings for survival. Yui appears and tells us we do sleep, but not like humans. They reach the center of Alfheim and discover a great hustle and bustle. Finally, they get quite close to World Tree. Leafa explains it's hard to get to the top. Oberon, the fairy king, along with light fairies live at the top. Once you meet King, you can reincarnate as elves. Kirito explains the story of Agile and how close some people were when they tried. Leafa says, I heard that story, they were close. GM found a remedy, and there is a huge obstacle above the cloud to avoid further quests. Suddenly, Yui senses the presence of Mommy, Asuna. Kirito desperately asks more and Yui says yes. This is the place. Kirito flies straight away. Episode 21 concludes. Episode 22 begins dramatically when Kirito flies, but got hit a couple of times because of the barriers. Screaming in pain, Kirito desperately wants to fly up, so does Yui. Yui uses warning mode to contact Kirito, trying to break the barrier. Kirito catches the card that is dropped from the top. Yui abruptly says it is Mommy who drops it as she can hear us. Kirito asks Leafa about the gate. It's in the base, but you better not go there as they are protected by guardians, Leafa responds. However, Kirito snubs the advice and decides to go on his own. He flies and falls drastically. Kirito requests Yui to sense the gate. Yui answers by telling him it is going to be hard breaking the gate. Kirito replies, this is a Hobson's choice and I have to go. They reach the gate, but before entering, guardians confirm from Kirito as the rest of the journey is going to be devastative. Kirito assures them and they open the gate. Now then, the game begins and Kirito kills one of the monsters. As he is progressing, Asuna comes into his imagination. He finds unlimited enemies to fight. He kills some, but it's hard to fight for long alone. He is received by the number of arrows and swords. His HP falls and Kirito goes to the resurrection time. During resurrection, Kirito thinks I was wrong in that I could do everything alone. It's time for me to say goodbye to this world. Suddenly, Leafa appears on the spot and picks up the resurrection flame of Kirito. Despite receiving a number of swords and arrows, she manages to get out. As she moves out, she makes Kirito alive. Kirito thanks Leafa and tells not to risk her life next time, as I want to do everything alone. Afterward, Leafa hugged him from the back and tells she cares about him. Kirito says, I am after Asuna, who I have been struggling for. Leafa now realizes Kirito is the same one who is her big brother in the real world. It's shocking for Kirito too to call Leafa Sugu. Moreover, Leafa logs herself off and moves to the real world. Kirito does the same. Later, Kirito knocks on the door. Sugu is crying bitterly and tells him she has been deceived by everything, love, feelings, everything. She comes to know why Kirito set himself apart for 2 years. He has been doing so because she is not his real sister. Sugu requests Kirito to leave her alone. She slams the door and starts crying bitterly. Kirito stays at door. Episode 22 concludes. Episode 23 commences emotionally when Kirito starts recalling a time of the past 2 years. He recalls online gaming dragged him to the virtual world. He learned there is no difference between the real and virtual world. When he got back to the real world after 2 years, he felt happy seeing Sugu crying for him. I decided to curtail the distance to make everything happen. Kirito tells Sugu that he is waiting for her in Aaron. This surprises Sugu, Leafa, a bit as she felt angry with him and he is still strong and normal. Next, Leafa gets into the virtual world. She finds Recon who asks about Spriggan. Leafa cries and tells I remained rude to him, that's why he left me. Recon could not resist himself and expressed his love to Leafa. Leafa kicks him away. Recon reacts, I was just testing myself. Leafa reaches out to Kirito. Later, Leafa wants to finish things off with a fight where it all started with Kirito. They start for a bit until Leafa falls herself on Kirito. They both say sorry to each other. Kirito adds my quest for the virtual world stays until Asuna opens her eyes to the real world. This is the reason I never found a chance to think about you. Leafa responds, I will wait and keep helping toward your goal. Recon shows up and Leafa tells him that 3 players are settling for the mission. You, I, and Kirito. Kirito asks Yui about the Guardians of the Gate. She replies you can defeat them with your speed and skills, since the Guardians do not have great stats. They are all facing enemies now. Kirito kills a couple of enemies in no time, which amazes Recon. Furthermore, more enemies show up and seem like they are not ending. It's time for Leafa and Recon to show some action. Recon is utilizing more of his energy, which makes Leafa thoughtful. Suddenly, Recon launches dark magic that turns out to be self-destructive. It adds fire to flames on Leafa. Now then, Kirito is attacked and Leafa is using every skill to get Kirito back. Leafa is ambushed and all of a sudden Alicia and Sakuya show up with their armies. They start killing mercilessly and Sakuya tells them it's time for us to pay back. Alicia reveals we get the equipment against the money Kirito gave us. Next, Leafa gives her weapon and Kirito cruises toward the door by overpowering all the enemies. Leafa is hopeful Kirito will make it. Kirito finally makes it and the door is closed. Sakuya and Alicia make their way back. Kirito asks Yui and she explains the door is closed by the administration. Now then, Kirito receives the card again. He requests Yui, who uses it and the door opens. It's time for teleport and episode 23 ends here. Episode 24 begins when both Yui and Kirito are teleported to a new place that is unknown to them. Yui senses they can approach Asuna and knows where she is. On the way, the places which Leafa told Kirito are not there, and Kirito tells Yui she will have to face the music for this. They get closer to the cage and eventually they reach out to Asuna. Why? Yui runs and hugs Asuna warmly, who bursts into tears after watching Kirito. Kirito says sorry to her for being so late, but Asuna says I know you will make it one day. Kirito decides to leave for home, but Yui says it's really hard since Asuna's system is closed to complicated codes and a console is required for that. Suddenly the environment dark and Kirito's body starts trembling. Yui gets disappeared and Kirito becomes immovable. In all these scenarios, Sugu appears and Kirito cannot believe this. Next, Sugu tells Kirito to call him Oberon the Fairy King instead of his worldly name. Sugu has his boots on the head of Kirito, saying it's the wonder of gravity magic that you cannot move. Sugu adds, with the assistance of 300 SAO players, I managed to create technology that is on the verge of completion and that can control human thoughts, and soon he would be able to control human souls. There is no power in this world that can undo technology. Afterward, Asuna is chained and Sugu gets closer to her, feeling the warmth of Asuna. Kirito cannot watch this at all and Sugu gets closer to him instead, kicking him on his head and stabbing him. Sugu commands the system to change the level of Kirito, and as soon as it reaches 3, Kirito would feel some physical changes. After that, Sugu starts having fun with Asuna. Surprisingly, Heathcliff Aka Akiko Kayaba appears and gives his system to Kirito to compete. He disappears and Kirito musters up the courage and commanding system to bring it to level 0. Sugu is dumbfounded at what's going on and Kirito tells him that I am rejuvenated by Akiko Kayaba. Sugu could not believe this as he thinks Akiko comes into my progression and does not allow me to rule. Now then, the system is neglecting Sugu's orders whereas accepting Kirito's orders is being accepted. He gives the sword to Sugu to fight to finish the things off of this world. Kirito takes vengeance and beats Sugu black and blue, cutting him into pieces. Sugu dies and Asuna hugs Kirito. Kirito cannot control his emotions and Asuna says, "I always have a faith in you, we can meet in the real world now." Asuna logs off and Heathcliff appears on the spot, giving him another world to quest. Kayaba says, "Do protect this world if you have feelings remaining for the virtual world." Kayaba disappears then. Next, Kirito meets up with Yui, telling her mommy is back and is sent to the real world. Yui becomes happy and tells him, "We can stay in touch as I have placed my system in your nerd gear." Kirito logs off and meets Sugu. She tells Sugu that the mission is accomplished, Asuna is survived, and this could not have been possible without your help. Sugu hugs him warmly and tells him to go out to meet Asuna as she has been anxiously waiting. Kirito takes out the bicycle and episode 24 ends here. Episode 25 begins horribly when Kirito is hit by a knife. Sugu appears and Kirito is stunned. Sugru kicks him and tells, "As soon as my research completes, I would hold the whole thing." Sugru pounces upon Kirito and Kirito stumbles and falls to the ground. Sugru tries to kill him but Kirito goes for the counterattack, beats him, and leaves him on the ground. Eventually, Kirito reaches out to the hospital where she meets Asuna and hugs her emotionally. He tells her that I have had the last fight and we will not face any trouble from here on. Later, Kirito attends the class and as he leaves, he finds Asuna in the middle who has been waiting for her. Kirito says, "It is better to call me Kazuto because it's awful to use your character name in the real world." Asuna says, "I might face difficulties since I have the same name in both worlds." Moreover, Kirito inquires about Asuna's health. She says she feels better, but the doctor warns me not to run. In addition, Asuna also shares that her father remains down for over some time. He also feels like dismissing himself from the rest of the duties. Kirito explains about Sugu that he was taken to the police. First, he ignored and told nothing and put all the blame on Kayaba. But as police interrogated his employees, he has to sit on his knees. Furthermore, the 300 players from SAO got back to Earth, but as per doctors, it would take time to bring their lifestyles to normal. The whole system of VRMMO is demolished and the whole industry has to pay the price. About Kayaba, Kirito says he committed suicide as he scanned his brain a lot. He recalls the moment when Kayaba showed up and helped him. Later, Kirito along with Asuna takes Sugu to Agile to a bar. Kirito is given a warm welcome and everyone congratulates him on defeating SAO. They enjoy drinks and Klein joins the party too. Thinker meets them and gets wishes over his marriage with Yulier. Kirito asks Agile about the seed. Next, Agile reveals many servers are connected to the seed and many downloaded it. Kirito depicts that he gave the seed to Kaeb who understood it well. He modified it brilliantly as ordinary servers can download it and can create their virtual world. Several companies have their virtual games. Lastly, Leafa flies up again and tries to reach the maximum altitude, but the flight limit is over and she begins to fall. Luckily, Kirito picks her up and tells her he knows she may suffer at some point. He takes her up to make her feel less inferior and reaches near the moon, an Aincrad floating castle, and Kirito urge to cover its 100 floors and expect Leafa to help him. Soon after Agile, Klein, and the old crew join them. Yui appears, Asuna holds Leafa's hand and they begin to fly. Episode 25 in Season 1 concluded.